was a child, I absolutely loved books. I've been an avid reader since I learned to read, and books really were my solace and my escape from a difficult childhood. And I sort of lost myself in stories, and as I became an adult and became interested in writing, sort of naturally went down that path of fiction and telling stories. Just before I turned 30, I had little toddlers and it was nap time, and I was vacuuming one day. Very mundane task. And I said to God, I'd love to be a writer. And then I went through all the things in my mind about why that could never happen. I'm not educated. It seemed like an impossibility. But I felt like in that moment, God brought to mind the types of people that He uses. A 16-year-old girl to give birth to His son, or the disciples who were fishermen. And it gave me hope that maybe that was a path that someday I could follow. I love story as a vehicle. I think it's a way into people's hearts. Sometimes if you're speaking more directly on a topic, especially like the topic of words, where it's dealing with something sensitive and often painful, it opens a door that maybe other types of writing or types of books wouldn't open. Words is the story of 10-year-old Kaylee, who's been abandoned by her mother and is being abused by her mother's boyfriend, and is locked in a world of silence. The trauma that she has experienced has literally robbed her of her voice, and so she's unable to speak. And it's also the story of Sierra, who is a young woman in her 30s who is an artist and is really living a life of denial. She's denying the pain of her own sin and the consequences that she's suffering. And through a divine set of circumstances, Kaylee and Sierra are brought together. And as their lives intersect, God's healing begins. The other piece of words comes from my own life and my own experience. I was sexually abused as a child by someone close to me, an authority figure, which is often the case. And that first step, that first moment of speaking out about that type of abuse is terrifying. It's absolutely the most difficult step an abuse survivor will take, but it's the most important step in their healing. So then it was a story that I had to tell. So I became compelled at that point to write the story and hopefully offer it to an audience who might relate to it in some way. There's so much power in words and speaking our truths, and the Bible tells us to confess to one another. And I think that's so that we can offer grace to one another and receive God's grace.